Welcome to Born or Made, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of success and identity. Are the traits that define us as leaders ingrained from birth, or are they carved out throughout our experiences? Join your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, as we ask these questions to some of the most insightful and inspiring entrepreneurs of our time. Each episode, we explore their journeys, the decisions that shaped them, and how they've molded their own paths to success. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply curious about the interplay between nature and nurture in professional growth, you're in the right place. Get ready for compelling stories, transformative insights, and a new perspective on what it really takes to make it in the world of entrepreneurship.
Hello, and welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. I am your host, Anne-Marie LaTulip, and with me today, I have the wonderful Stacie Shifflett. Did I pronounce that right?
You did, yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Stacie Shifflett, the founder of Modern Consciousness and co-author of multiple internationally best-selling books, is a seasoned entrepreneur with a deep passion for understanding the human condition. Transformed by a significant life-changing event in 2012, she embarked on a rich journey of intensive personal exploration. This experience, combined with her innate insight and compassion, underscores her mission to empower individuals to recognize and harness their unique brilliance and chart their own treasure map to joy. Stacie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yeah, me too. I'm happy to have you. And I am so interested about the treasure map that you're talking about. I would love it if before we get into that, you could just tell people a little bit more about you and how you came to be where you are today in this phase of your life.
Sure. I have done so many things. And when I say that, I don't mean it lightly, right? I seem to reinvent myself about every 10 years. I just have naturally done it forever.
Yeah.
Without really even realizing it. But I've been in so many different industries. I was in the hospitality industry, which is just a really nice way of saying I tended bar and, waited tables.
Right. I've been there.
Yeah. It wasn't back in the 70s. It wasn't as accepted of a profession, right, as it is now. So
right.
Anyway, so that was interesting. I got married and thought, geez, I might need to get a day job. And so I did get a day job, which was a little bit difficult, having, not really having any office experience. I quit school because I was making good money tending bar. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, but within a year of that first job, with a woman from church, actually, that my mom knew, I just kept stepping up. She was a small 8A contractor in Washington, D.C. And within a year, self-trained, I'm going to date myself. I rolled out the first IBM PC XT desktops to the entire Department of Health and Human Services. So, wow. born or made. Yes, we are some of both, I believe.
I think that's a great answer. And it's funny that you mentioned that about bartending, because you're right. Nowadays, bartending is almost glamorous, especially depending on where you're bartending. It's almost
there's celebrities.
Entrepreneurship. Yeah, it's really creating your own business, building your client base. It's almost very similar. So that's interesting to me that that's how you started. So that might have been part of that entrepreneurial mindset back then.
I think it was. I had one job way back then. I was probably, 22 years old maybe at the time. And I walked into a local establishment, and I had been working in DC, and I walked in. So this is the born part, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I walked in and asked to speak to the manager and said, hey, they got him for me. We sat down at the bar, and I said, hey, you're leaving money on the table. I know your restaurant. I know the bar. I know the clientele. I've been in here. I know your prices. And I believe that we could make more money together. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. And he hired me, and we did.
Wow.
So, it's been interesting. I had a llama farm for over a dozen years. I raised award-winning llamas. I was in IT. I acquired a $50 million software company once without without investing a penny of my own money. So when I say I've done a lot of things, I really, really have done a lot of things.
Wow. Yeah. So there's so much to ask you about there. First off, a llama farm. How did that happen? How did that happen? How does
Well, I
one acquire
was,
yeah, a llama farm?
yeah, I was a government contractor at the time. I had become a subject matter expert in federal government procurement processes and acquisition processes. And I worked with companies that had systems to do that and implement them and integrate them into large government organizations, including integrating with their financial management systems and all that stuff. But yeah, I had when I got pregnant, I was married at the time and got pregnant. And we thought, it would be a great place to raise our son. I'll back up a little bit. I did lose the first child. Our first son died.
Oh no.
And then I got pregnant again 10 months later. It's funny how things work out because we had our house for sale and it didn't sell. It was in a low point in the real estate market, right? Well, it's a good thing it didn't because I got to heal from the death of that first child there. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we just thought that getting out of the city, we were in Fairfax, Virginia, so Northern Virginia, very hectic, very suburban,
Yeah.
and bought 40 acres, built a house, and I wanted to do something that was home based. I was very fortunate to be able to stay home with him for a while. And yeah, I did a lot of research on agriculture and I landed on llamas. I didn't have to slaughter them.
Yeah. Thank God.
They kept the land in land use. And yeah, I did that. I used to show them all over the country.
That is amazing. Now, did you have a love for llamas before this, or was that just
No,
something you came up with?
I don't know that I ever met a llama before that.
I can say I've never met a llama, so that is so
Yes.
cool to me. And
My mom would be like, how is it that you're out here doing this stuff? Yeah, I mean, I could I had a breeding operation. I could birth animals. I could turn a baby. If a baby was breech, you've seen the cow, the cow people with the
yes,
gloves up, I could get in there and turn a baby and birth it. And I just learned to do it all. And my mom was like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know.
you just do it.
You just do it. I loved it. So yeah,
Wow.
when you love something, you find a way.
Yeah, that is fascinating to me. So what happened? When you moved, did you sell the farm or is it
Yes, the farm, I had sold some of the animals and I found a home for the rest of them. And actually had a breeding operation up in New Jersey, but the farm with the divorce, the farm went. I wasn't actively breeding and showing at that time.
Yeah.
The animals would have lived their rest of their lives there, but yeah, after divorce after 28 years of marriage. So
Wow.
um,
That's
there
yeah.
went the farm.
Wow. Okay. So let me segue in your I have so many questions, but in your
Sure.
bio, I read it says that you had a traumatic experience. Now,
That was
the
pretty, yes, that was pretty traumatic. Yes.
was that the death of
Um,
what you mentioned earlier?
the death of my child, my first son died maybe 1990, because my son now is born in 92.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, that was a journey to hell and back,
I
right?
can
Is
imagine.
what I call it. I was very fortunate to come through that and out of that with help, with my parents'
Sure.
help, my ex-husband's help. I have a really interesting story that I can tell you about that too. But my divorce, which was years and years later, obviously years and years later, um, it was hard. It
Yeah.
was really, really hard. I would have to say between the two, and I don't know, some people may understand this, some may not, but as devastating as the loss of Brandon was, I had a long, long time to heal from that. And he did come to visit me after and let me know he was okay years later,
Oh,
which is kind of cool.
I love that.
But my divorce, it was worse in that it knocked my confidence, some of my
Mm.
confidence out of me. I didn't realize it had done that for a while.
Yep.
Um,
I
but
can, that's totally understandable. So Yeah, I'm guessing that it wasn't your choice, right?
Well, it was, but it wasn't. I mean,
Okay.
I just it
Yeah. The
it
reason I
it
ask that is because I can understand how
mm,
that would shake your confidence, because it wasn't something that happened as a tragic, just,
yeah,
accident. It was a choice, right?
there
So,
were obviously some surprises and
yeah.
just unable to let's see, how can I put it in the most delicate way? Unable to get beyond those. And I just said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
doing
think we
this
can
anymore.
all put two and two together and understand where you're at. Yeah, that's too bad. But I want to hear about that story that you were going to say.
Yeah, the doctors at the time, I mean, obviously I was so depressed, right? I mean, it's the worst. It's the worst. Losing a child is just the worst. And that was my mantra going through my divorce. If I could survive losing that
Right.
child, I will survive this divorce. But they suggested at one point that I go to a group counseling session, right? A group therapy for grieving parents. And I did go, and I went once, and it was a group of parents that had lost children from a variety of reasons, right? Mine had some birth defects. They thought he would be fine. He wasn't. He turned blue. They did open heart surgery. He died. And there were a number of different types of circumstances in
Mhm.
there, right? From cancers to homicide to, just a lot of variety of reasons and different age children. But there was a man in there that was speaking to us, and it had been 5 years since the death of their child. I've got goosebumps telling you this even. And his wife was still unable to go out of the house to even go to the grocery store.
Oh, no.
And it had been 5 years. And while I could understand that and have compassion for that, I did not want to be in that place for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And that was the only therapy session that I went to.
And that was a
Because I
wow.
walked out going, I can't do that. And I did have people supporting around me, right? And
Right.
it wasn't like I walked out and was fine. But yeah, I recovered.
Yeah, that's amazing that that one experience gave you that conscious awakening, sort of. To,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So all of that being said, did those experiences lead you to the work that you're doing today? I'm
When I went through the divorce, I thought I was doing everything right. And I think there's probably a lot of women that maybe feel this way, right?
yeah.
You know, I found my own home. I had my own business running at the time. And, so financially I was okay. And, I didn't have to worry about some of the things that a lot of women do have to worry about. But, yeah, about 2 years in, I really figured out that, I was angry. I was still
Oh,
really angry. I had a lot of anger inside. I had a lot of resentment inside. I was traveling and drinking and having a good time and keeping my business together, all of that stuff. But I was like, gosh, Stace, this is just, I couldn't see my future, right? And I was thinking something would just organically evolve, right? A lot of women that go through divorce think this, right? Well, I'll meet somebody else or this will happen. And I finally sat down and had a talk with myself. It was like, this is just like anything and everything you've ever done in your life, Stacie. You're gonna have to create it.
mhm.
It's not going to happen all by itself, right? It's not just going to evolve without any effort from you. And so I began a very intensive personal development journey, which was awesome. And I can remember walking into the first woman's office that did, I know her still today. I adore her. she did some theta healing, and she was a coach, and she did some energetic work, and this kind of stuff. And I had been referred to her, and she said, well, why are you here? And I remember my answer clear as day, because I'm tired of being angry, right? When we get tired of our own BS,
Yes, for lack of a better word,
we take action. So that really spawned this adventure of mine. And I was fortunate in that I really was the owner and not the operator of my construction company that I had in DC. We built 4- and 5-story apartment buildings. And I told you I did a lot.
I was going to say, I didn't hear about that one before.
Yeah, that was another one. And so, the company was running itself, and it was making good money as well. I had an excellent team. It didn't run itself. My team ran the company. Very trustworthy, wonderful people. So I took off on this journey, and that also included 2 years as a Tony Robbins Platinum partner, traveling the world, really, so I did a lot. And so that probably all started in about 2014, 2015, maybe. And in recent years, through that journey and through meditation, the idea for this business came to me, right? The words came to me, modern consciousness. And I started capturing information that I was receiving. Like, I don't know, what is it? What's an automaton 2.0? So I've got the aspects of modern consciousness, and and then it just kept coming. So I kept collecting the information, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I just kept resisting. I'm not your girl. I don't want to start another business at this age. I don't know anything about that business model, all this stuff. And honestly, it would not leave me alone. It would not. It was like being possessed with this mission. And finally, one day I had moved here, and I was meditating here, and I was like, oh, I have the most interesting conversations with spirit. I really do. So I'm like, all right, fine. You're not going to leave me alone. What do you want me to do? What is my next best step? And I got one word, which was write. And I said, okay, I've been writing everything all this information would come in, and I kind of collect it in bits and pieces and try to interpret it and build off of it a little bit. But I surrendered. I said, okay, I surrender. I will write. And in such a way as I wasn't sure, but in such a way that was different than I was doing before, right? So I surrendered to accepting the mission. And within an hour, I had a text message from a friend of mine that said, hey, I've got a friend that's a publisher in Canada, and she's doing a collaboration book with Les Brown. She has a chapter left. Would you like to join the project? So I couldn't say no.
Yeah.
Kind of rolled my eyes at the sky and said, no, that's clever. Okay. Yes. So that was the first book. And it was creating that book during that process was when I realized that I could launch a company in conjunction with the launch of the book. So that was the first iteration of a website that I did, and so on and so forth. So that's how Modern Consciousness came to be.
Okay. What was the chapter about? Do you mind sharing what you wrote about?
Yeah, that one, I don't remember all of them. I've got 5 of them so far, I think. I've got a book coming out with Jack Canfield, Mindset Matters. I think I'll have the copies in my hand in August. So,
oh, great.
Yeah, that was called The End of Me. And that really was my divorce story.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Because it was the end of me, but not really. It really was a beginning.
It was the beginning. I was just going to say that. And, all those experiences just kind of had to have led you to where you're supposed to be, which I truly believe. But
I believe that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But I really want to hear, you mentioned that you hear spirit, right? So people listening must be so curious about that. I know that I am. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I'm so curious as to how it manifests itself. Is it a voice? How do you know when something's nagging at you?
It depends. Mostly for me at this point, I have heard a voice before. I mean, I've had some experiences throughout my life, right? I'm one of those kids that had an imaginary friend that
Ah,
I could
okay.
see that nobody else could. My parents entertained the idea fabulously that George was with me all the time. So they would ask if George was there and invite him in the car or whatever we were doing. I lived in a haunted house. I lived in a house with a ghost. His name was Jimmy. He was very polite and very nice. So, yeah, I've had my son came back to see me several years, a number of years after he had died, and appeared the age that he would have been at that time. So I have certainly had some of those experiences, but it's I get more like information and inspiration and ideas, and it's, you know, where would I have come up with the term modern consciousness or the aspects of modern consciousness and how it works? And it's not linear, and we start out as an automaton, and then, you know, it just, you know, a
That's
lot of it,
amazing.
I knew it was coming from somewhere that was not just my imagination. Um, so I captured it, but anymore it's just a regular conversation with me, you know,
That's so interesting.
within me.
Right, right.
Mm.
That's so interesting. So talk about modern consciousness. So actually, first, let's go back. So you wrote your book, your first collaboration book, and that led you to modern consciousness and coaching. At what point did you start helping others with what you were learning?
Probably about a year into it. I mean, I'm a, you know, I'm an organizer and a business person and a really good analyst and a really good project manager by heart. So,
Mhm.
I maybe did things a little bit differently than some did, but it was what I was called to do. And what I felt that I needed to do was to really set up the infrastructure. I call it the infrastructure of the company. And I set about doing all of that as I got my messaging straight, because it took me a little while to really get my messaging straight. You know, there's a lot of coaches.
Mhm.
Um, I saw a lot of people coming out of some of the communities that I was in, and automatically, you know, like coming out and hanging a, you know, I'm now a coach shingle on
Mhm.
their on their door. And my path was a little bit different in that I just kept capturing information and ideas. You know, I did create a program. Um, I did things like registered trademarks, and, you know, I did a lot of business things. And it's funny because I'd get pieces of information here and pieces of information there, and, you know, I might start on something and then I would be inspired to start something else, you know, as far as content wise.
Mhm.
Um, so it seemed scattered to those that were watching me, some of them, perhaps even some business coaches I had. Um, but that was the flow. That's just kind of how it worked. And all of that is in use at this point, right? None of it, even though it looked like I may have been, um, creating too much and not selling enough, that may have been put to me at that way at some point in time.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I needed to go through that process, right? And I'm kind of I have a very strong value of self-actualization. I didn't realize that that's what that was either until later in life. I really like to figure things out, and I like to understand them. I'm
Mhm.
not one where someone says, "We'll do XYZ and ABC will happen," because it often does not really happen that way. You know, there's so many different modalities and thoughts and coaches and structures and ideas and strategies, you know, and they all have their values. So I experimented for a while, and just kept capturing information as things were coming through, and it's coming together beautifully in that created the program Elevate Your Life, and the output from that really is creating your unique treasure map to joy. Everything is unique to each of us, and I firmly believe that it's within us. We just have lost track of it over the years.
Yeah, I agree. That treasure map to joy, I love that, because it's almost like my philosophy is don't waste 1 minute doing something that doesn't light you up, right? But many people don't really know what lights them up yet, and they have to discover that. Would you agree?
I would, and it's really, really interesting, because the first aspect of modern consciousness really is what I call automaton 2.0, and it's when we're running on autopilot, more or less. But it's deeper than that, because, and I call it 2.0 to acknowledge who we are today, but it's really deeper than that, because how else could it be? We come into this world absolutely helpless. So we have to be shaped by those that are around us and by our environment, and everybody sort of does the best they can do, right? But between our families and the institutions that we're raised in, right, whether that's school or church or what have you, and I'm in America, so the American dream, or your parents didn't get a college degree, so my God, you're going to be the first one in the family to get a college degree, and that's going to secure your future, and all these beliefs, and then all the advertising, and all of it. We really become, we are a byproduct of that. We are a product of that. But how else could it be? Because we're not routinely, not to say that nobody does, but we're not routinely, the educational system certainly doesn't teach you differently.
Right.
A lot of those institutions do not. It could be, fear-based. There's a lot of fear that's used. There's a lot of comparison. So everybody kind of does the best they can do until they either have some sort of crisis, but I truly believe that they can't always be avoided, because sometimes we need that experience. We come into this world to have whatever experiences we're supposed to have, and then we get fun creating others. But, when you start hearing that voice, and we know it's in our head, it's in our heart, and we push it down for many, many years, it says, there must be more to life than this, right? There's got to be more. What is, okay, well, all right, let's go for that promotion, or go get a new, bigger house, or, whatever it is. So it's really not until we stop and seek a different way, because we're not necessarily taught a different way. There's a lot of information out there. But even at that, we're we might believe, energetic healing, or, quantum physics, well, quantum physics, they're finding out, but, quantum healing or whatever, I think, that's just, BS. A lot of it is not. It really, really isn't. I mean, I've been pretty open to things, because, hey, I had a ghost as a roommate. So,
Wait, so real quick, did you actually see the ghost?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Oh yeah.
Because I think I have a ghost in my house too, but he's wicked nice and friendly and just likes to play. So
yeah,
doesn't bother me.
yeah, it was crazy, but
wow, that's crazy. Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to change the subject. So
that's
I want
fine.
to ask you about, you mentioned two things I want to ask you about: energy and about resisting, right? So first, do you feel, and I've interviewed so many great people on this podcast, and some of them share the same sort of views about, self-discovery and energy, and achieving a higher self, that kind of
Higher frequency.
Yes, thank you. So do you feel that anybody has the capacity to do that?
Yes, everybody has the capacity to do that.
Yeah. But it's something that can't happen unless you consciously make the decision to open up that mindset. Is that correct?
You do. You have to clear out the chatter. I mean, we have, what do they say? We have some 70,000 thoughts a day, and I think we're only consciously aware of maybe 5% of those. And so, we've got a lot going on in our subconscious that we're not even aware of. It gives us clues all the time. But we're not, we're unaware of it. And then, what is the other statistic? I think about 85% of those repetitive thoughts that we're having in our unconscious mind that we're not aware of are actually negative thoughts. So it's a matter of unraveling that. I think a great way to unravel it is just figure out what triggers you, right? What are your emotional triggers? I call emotional triggers a waypoint on your treasure map to joy, because if you can calm your triggers, you calm your life. And there's something behind it. There's some reason that you're getting upset. If we get upset, it's our responsibility. It's something within us, whether the other person's being an a-hole or not, right?
Yeah.
Or still, there's something within us, right? Where we either aren't creating the boundary, the healthy boundary that's needed, right, around that person that is creating chaos in our life, or a person that creates a lot of drama. So it's still within us, right? It doesn't, we have to take responsibility,
Right.
for what we do. I think I mentioned to you, I'm dealing with, we just discovered some black mold here in my bedroom, and it's a long story, but anyway, contractors are in and out. We started all up, and, I'm not feeling the best. So, I went to an appointment this morning, and I'm driving to the appointment, and I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily get to choose how I feel today, because my system is a little yanked with all this mold.
Yeah.
But I get to choose how I feel about how I feel. Right?
Yeah.
So I may not physically feel the best today, but I get to choose how I feel about that.
That is so interesting. And it's almost like when you said that, I saw in my head, it's almost like stepping on the brakes for a second and say, wait a second, I am in control. I can take this control back, even though I feel like crap. I can still have a
Yes.
great day and feel good about feeling like crap, right? Like
Yeah, it could just mean, on some days and I think that another thing that people get confused on is thinking that those of us that have achieved these things, there's always higher levels to go. If the universe never tires of giving us lessons and helping us become better people, ever will never tire. So that's fine. But oh gosh, what was I going to say? Let's see, the universe never tires. I don't know. I forgot it. It'll come back. It'll
well,
come back.
let me ask you something. Maybe it'll trigger. I was saying that you have to stop for a second to kind of let those thoughts come in. Do you? Because I feel like my thoughts are so fast and frequent that I wouldn't even have the wherewithal to stop and think that.
Yes. Yes. You have to quiet your mind. You have to train yourself to notice them. We
Ah,
have them, we'll have this little blip. Sometimes they're so weird. You go, what the heck was that? Right. That's like not me thinking that, but it is. So we have to learn to recognize them, because it can be in a flash, and go, oh, wait a minute, let me grab that one and let me look at that one later. Right. So it's great to put a little, take a little journal and jot it down. And I know what I was going to say, even those of us that have some mastery, it doesn't mean every day is a perfect day and we feel good about everything, right? But we also know when to honor those emotions and those feelings, and to set that time aside to process them. And to honor them. And, maybe you need to have a good cry, or maybe, I was at the doctor's the other day because I'm having some issues with this mold, and $100,000 worth of, I've got structural damage here at the house. It was a leak that was hiding. So,
oh,
but I told the doctor when I left her office the other day, I said, I said, I'm going to go home after this. I met with her. We scheduled some tests, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I'm just going to go home and have a good cry. I said, I have to release it. I just need to get it out, because if I don't get it out, I'm just holding it in. I'm pushing it down. I'm pushing it down. And I've been dealing with a lot around here these last month. It's been crazy. So, all right, I just need to give myself a break that afternoon and come home from the doctor and put on my pajamas and lay down and have a little cry and give myself some love and, make myself a nice dinner and
then move on, right?
then move on. We don't get stuck there. That's the thing. We get
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah. All of this stuff is so interesting to me. It's almost like opening up your consciousness so your higher thoughts can come in, or maybe deeper thoughts, maybe a better
Yeah,
way to put it.
our higher self. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
we're in here. We're in here, ourself and our higher self, and having our human experience. But you just have to learn to start paying attention to it,
Yeah.
right? And change the habit of your thinking. It's funny. I think I wrote an article. I don't know. I think it was this article, one of the articles that I put in Brains Magazine. I had somebody, I live in Siesta Key. You said you used to live in Sarasota, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of tourists, right? We have a lot of tourists here.
Yes.
And somebody not too long ago, and you know this, when you live in a tourist area, they don't know where they're going. They're doing the best they can. They probably got their, you got the husband driving and the wife probably yelling, "You need to make a left. You need to make a left." So this car comes, across and, left turn from the right lane.
Ugh.
I saw it, right? I mean, I avoided it. It wasn't even a close call, just because I was paying attention.
Sure. Yeah.
And what's the point of getting upset? Nobody was really harmed in that situation. They're just trying to they're not wanting to get in an accident that day any more than I am. And I just bless them and go on, and so we get to choose even those reactions in our daily. Now, I mean, that's different than a tractor trailer coming across the median and coming
Sure.
out.
Yeah.
All right. So there are no absolutes. I really dislike it when people say it's this way or that way. But we get to choose all those little mini experiences we have all day. And who do you want to be with? We take ourselves everywhere we go. Do you want to be with somebody that's upbeat and, pretty happy and easy to be around, or not?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be around that friend that causes all that drama, unless, of course, you also energetically feed off that drama and you both gossip and,
No.
but that's not serving
No, and
anybody.
it seems like there's always that one person in a group where, well, you wait at tables where nothing is good. It's all negative. Send this back. It's just a negative energy, and it just ruins the entire experience. So it's like a toxic personality.
It is, and it's a habit. They're in the habit of thinking that way. Their hormone. I mean, they release dopamine when they're it's crazy. They get it's just a habit. It's a personality habit. It's a biochemical habit. And we can change those things. And I think another really important thing is to be present with what you're doing. Be fully present with it. Even if you're going to the grocery store, my assistant cracks me up because we're in the grocery store one day and, I'm dancing down the aisles and getting, my stuff, and she's head down and, this aisle and get it. To me, she goes, "How can you be so happy grocery shopping?" I said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I'm enjoying grocery shopping. I'm being present with it. You're thinking about everything else you want to get done today and not enjoying grocery shopping. You're going to grocery shop either way, right? We're going to get it done and we're going to be here for 40 minutes. So you want to be happy or you want to worry about, not worry, but, and she, she'll come home sometimes and she'll go, she goes, I looked up and I made eye contact with somebody and I helped somebody get something off the shelf, or I helped them with their cart. It makes a difference. It makes a huge difference, and it emanates out from us into the world.
It does.
And that's what modern consciousness is all about. It starts here and it emanates out, and we positively influence, or try to. Not everybody can be positively influenced, but they're on their own journey. That's okay. It comes from within us out, to those that are closest around us, to those in our communities, whether that's our geographical community or, our online communities or whatever that is. And the world will just be a better place if we would have a little more love and compassion for others, but for ourselves.
It starts there. Yeah. I mean, that's the most important thing, because I feel like those people that are angry, like we were just talking about, right? They're probably angrier with themselves most times than with other people,
Well, when you
right?
feel victimized and you get stuck in that
Yeah.
mindset, that's, it's not a good mindset. We can
Mm.
be victimized, but if we continue to tell ourselves that story, we will experience more situations in which we feel victimized, because we kind of attract what we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you work with people that may be struggling with that, with um negative anger, maybe even you mentioned resistance? Do you come across that
Yes,
often?
I love to work with people that have a little bit of understanding about this, right?
Mhm.
A little bit of understanding about, gosh, there's, there could be a better way, but how do I get there, right? A lot of people go to so many different seminars, and they're looking for that one magic thing. Oh, I'm going to hear that one magic thing. There isn't one magic thing. We accumulate a lot of knowledge. I know I did, going to these seminars. It wasn't one magic thing. It wasn't until I put it all together myself. um, so knowledge is useless unless it's applied. And then we have to really begin to embody the person that we want to be. So we have to consciously architect ourselves to be the person that we want to be. And we know what that is,
Yeah.
but we've lost sight of it because of our natural foundational experience of coming into this world and growing into adulthood.
Yeah.
So I love working with people that realize that they're ready for a change, and they really want to take a look at this. One thing that I wish people had done this with me, and it's why I do it. I really take a hard look with folks. I mean, they have to tell me, I don't know their life experience, but we really look at all the different life domains and really discover at a deep level, what are you experiencing today in each area of your life? Not only what is frustrating you, but what do you love about it? And that's where we start. Where are you today? Where do you want to be? Then we architect a bridge, right? To say, okay, here are the gaps. Now, where can we find the one thing that's going to take you the furthest? Because there's something in that mix that will take you the furthest, because it has the most impact across your entire life. All the areas of your lives. There's some common themes. I'm really good at finding themes.
Yeah.
And then we create a path to get there. And it's incremental. Change is incremental. People also think it's going to change overnight, and it doesn't. So let's create a path, that treasure map to joy,
The
right?
treasure map.
Let's start
Yeah.
laying those waypoints for you to start moving you where you want to go, where you want to be. And it's not even how do you want to feel about that area of your life?
Yeah.
Some people can have the greatest career success in the world and they hate their job. So how do you define success in that area? So it's all very unique to us.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's also interesting that that was how you started your journey through this, is that you realized that you wanted a change. You didn't want to be angry anymore. And so that's what began it all for you.
There has to be a catalyst. Yeah. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
usually some sort of catalyst, and those voices that are saying there's got to be more. they start they start out quietly, but when we ignore them, they get louder and louder and louder, until such time as we take action.
Oh, that's awesome. I hate that we're coming to the end here. I mean, this is
Has been so much fun talking to
it's
you.
so interesting. It's really, really interesting and fascinating stuff. I love talking about it. Anything on the horizon for you? Anything new, big coming up?
Yeah, I've got a book coming out with Jack Canfield next month. I think it's released, and it's called Mindset Matters. And I am working on a book in a digital program, Treasure Map to Joy.
Okay.
Those are in the early stages, pretty early stages of development. And yeah, I mean, there are some free materials on my website. I think there's one that helps you with your triggers. I think that one's called Charting Your Treasure Map to Joy. I think the freebies are listed under my programs. There is a what's another one that's up there? Another one is your self-sabotaging habits, right? It's a quiz.
That's a good topic.
Quiz, yeah. And even at that, sometimes we just don't realize it's sabotaging, right? Like, how could being a perfectionist possibly hurt me? I'm just trying to do the best I could do. Well, it does.
Yep.
So,
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Self-sabotaging is a huge issue that, like you said, I mean, even, trying to break a habit of sleeping too late in the morning, you know what I mean? To me, that's self-sabotage. Just don't allow yourself to get up and start your day.
Yeah. I tell you, I've had I was never a morning person in the last few years. And it literally happened like that. I go to bed early now, but I wake up super early. It just changed. And the first few weeks, I'm like, why am I waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Because I have never been a 5 a.m. in the morning girl. And I go to bed earlier now because I'm up earlier. But
that was probably part of increasing your energy frequency, right?
I think so. At the time I told myself, I'm like, okay, well, I just really waste time from, 9 to 11 o'clock at night. I'm not really doing anything, right? So sure, let's get up early. We'll do that.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I will put a link to all the freebies in the show notes, and of course to your website.
Thank you.
Finally, before we end, I always ask a few random questions just to kind of get to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to fire those off. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. If you had the opportunity to go to space and step foot on the moon, would you?
Would I? I would rather bounce around in space than step foot on one location. That's where I imagine I am, is in space sometimes when I meditate.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's interesting.
I'd much rather just float around up there and.
Okay. All right. All right. So second, if you had the opportunity to have dinner with anyone alive or dead, who would it be?
This is going to be the most random answer. It's random to a lot of people. It's not to me. Michael Jackson.
Interesting.
What a fascinating person. And I would love to, I mean, you saw, and, I love to study the human condition, right?
Yeah.
It's really a passion and a hobby of mine too. I would just love to know more about him. So brilliant, so talented. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. And then we actually, strangely enough, kind of just touched on this, but my last question is always, I love to hear about other successful people and what they do for their daily or their morning habits. What are their morning habits? Because they say that your morning habit is very important to success. So when you wake up early, what's the first thing you do?
My mornings are much more pleasant if I ease into my day, and I don't know, I'm not one of those that, I don't meditate first thing in the morning. I meditate during the day. Usually if I'm going to, a lot of times I'll take a little break and meditate. I'm very conscious. So I'm always kind of watching my brain. I like to just have a calm, easy morning, and I will get up earlier if I have to, like if I have to catch an early flight, so that I am not starting my day at a pace that is hectic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so good. Do you live right on the beach?
I live on the water. I'm not on the beach, but I'm on the Grand Canal here.
The intercoastal. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I was gonna say that what a beautiful way to start your day is we go outside and look at the water too, right?
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
that's it for me. I like a peaceful, calm start to my day. And as I said, if I have a super early flight, I will get up even earlier to make sure that I have that hour to breathe, have my
Yes.
coffee, not
Yep.
feel rushed.
Yep.
Because if you start the day feeling rushed,
Your whole day will just be affected. I totally agree with that. And who is it? Not that this isn't a rush, but it's Tony. You mentioned Tony Robbins. I think it was him. I heard that he starts his day by jumping into a pool, an ice cold pool,
he does
or
ice
an ice
baths.
bath.
Yeah, I don't know if he starts his day that way, but yeah, he does. Yeah,
Oh
he
dear,
might. I don't know.
talk about a
Yeah.
jolt.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, well, Stacie, this has been so much fun. I thank you for coming
Thank
on,
you.
and I wish you all the best on your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Oh, yes.